Hello, this is Katie. Welcome to the Code with Me for Chapter 7. Now, I'm not sure what learning module it is at this point, but I'll have to check. But we are going to cover in this video Chapter 7 on character strings and the string builder. Now, the sad part is I made this video already today, and my space ran out. And I've been working with IT all afternoon, and we finally resolved something. But in the meantime, I'm not going to show my face. So, sorry, I'm waving to you right now. And maybe that's okay with you. But we'll get the screen recorded. Make sure this is going. Yep. And what happened before is I talked for an hour and only 15 minutes recorded. I'm getting kind of tired of doing that. So, I want to get this posted because there's some really good information in this chapter, and I want to keep it kind of short to at least a minimum of or a maximum of a half hour, I will say, maybe shorter. The chapter, Character Strings and String Builders, starts on page 348. You'll want to read the whole chapter, but as we're getting near the end of the semester, this chapter has a lot of useful functions or methods for things that you'll do in the future. One of the cool things about this chapter is it talks about how to kind of look through a string literal, which is a sentence that someone enters, and kind of look character by character. So I think one of the most useful things out of this section is password validation. You know, we use this over and over again, and when someone enters in a password, it checks character by character, and it checks things like uppercase, lowercase, is it a letter, is it a number, and is it enough characters. So this kind of explains how this is done, and you'll use this if you continue on with programming. We are going to code one program. Excuse me, and I've already coded it today because like I said, already made the video. And then this is also going to be our only assignment for this chapter. We're spending 1 week on it in fall and winter, so new Java. And in the fall and winter semester, we are only going to spend 1 week. So if you're in the face-to-face class, you have the classroom time for 1 week. And then if you're online, I will post this on the posting date, and it will be due 1 week later. So we will have the code with me, and then you'll have your quiz. But there will be no separate assignment. That doesn't mean the chapter is less important. It's just that the end of the semester is near, and we do want to spend 2 weeks on our last chapter, which is arrays, because that's more important. But you're going through some of the exercises in Chapter 7 that start on page 387. If there is any program that you want to see coded, send me an email and I'll send it back to you, because there's some really useful programs. The one that we're going to code is we're going to code number 3 on page 388 that writes an application that prompts the user to enter in a string, and then with this string they have to enter in at least 5 letters and 5 numbers. So we want to make sure that they continuously enter or reprompt the user to enter in a valid string if they didn't enter a valid string. So we're going to check character by character through the string to make sure that they do. So let's create a new program, and then I'm going to save it. I already coded it today, but I'll code this, and then I'll call it Code with Me Chapter 7, because I can't remember the learning module. I haven't put it in Blackboard yet. And again, even though this is the Code with Me, this is the only assignment. You won't have a separate assignment to code. So let's do a little documentation. Put your name, the date. First, if you're watching this later in the year, maybe somewhere around March, if you're watching this for the winter semester, hopefully the snow is all gone. But today, on November 13th, 2014, we have our first really kind of major snowfall. Well, not major, less than an inch, but a lot of highways were closed because we're learning to re-drive in the snow. And this is going to be problem number 3 from page 388 that we'll code. And we'll add a few embellishments to it so that we can run our program multiple times and see how that all works. So to start, we're going to do input. I called this Code With Me Chapter 7, so that has to be my class name. Have a open, close, end of class, and then we'll have main. And we are going to do input. So in addition to that, we'll do our scanner input right here. Scanner input equals there we go. Now we're going to just work within main, but again, if you're going on to 117, which is the first Java course, it's a continuation of this book. It picks up with chapter 9, and what they'll also pick up with is creating multiple files and classes. In this chapter, I think a good example of a program you should know how to do if programming is something you're going to continue on, you should know how to do question number 13, where you're creating tax data or calculating tax, but it uses multiple files and multiple methods, and that's something you need to know constructors and passing arguments around. But again, since chapter 3 and 4, we've really kind of not gone back to that concept. I think that's okay for those who are only taking 116, but if you're going to go on, make sure you understand that. So if you want to see any of those solutions, let me know. Okay, now here in this program, one of the things that I want to do is write our program so that it runs multiple times. So we're going to have, and this also, those were not even letters on the keyboard that matched up. We're going to have that same code that runs our program multiple times. In fact, well, no, I'll just type it. I can type fast, but you can copy it from another program. But here, since we're using strings, and the chapter is called strings and StringBuilder in characters, we might as well run this loop to run multiple times. So we're going to do string run again, and I initialize it to nothing. Now when you initialize a string to nothing, you have to have a space in there, or you could always, I do sometimes things like this, no value. It's a little bit more clear, but again, I always initialize my values. So inside of this do while, this will be the meat of the program, so what we're supposed to do, and then here is the end of the do while, and again we're just going to copy that basic structure where we say, whoops, right above that, this would be my while, run again, dot equals ignore case, and then pass it the letter yes, or the word yes. Remember that returns a two of those. That returns a Boolean value of true or false. Equals ignore case is a method that's actually finally explained in this chapter. So even though we learned it with loops last chapter, it's explained in here, so check that out. Now we are not, since we have 1 week for this material, we are not going to go through every single method that's in the StringBuilder class. I'm just checking my time. We're not going to go through all the methods that are in the StringBuilder class. We're not going to go and try them all, but we'll use 4 of them, well 5 of them now in this program. So we're using equals ignore case. Again, we're going to ask our question. You know, just like we did before. And again, you can copy this and paste it from your other program. Equals. It's getting kind of late because I've been messing with a lot of things today. So I still wanted to get this done, but I might be making more mistakes than if I were doing it in the morning when I have fresh coffee. Although I had a really good Starbucks tonight on my way home from work. Okay, input dot next line, and again remember this is for the skipping issue. So if you're not sure what I'm talking about, take it out and run your program multiple times and you'll see what the problem is. And I am going to just put a couple spaces from the runs of my program. So I'll just do some new lines. There we go. Okay. So that's our loop to run it multiple times. Let's make sure I didn't do anything wrong. And we should just yes, 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 no. It ends. Perfect. Okay, let's get on to the meat. The meat says, write an application that prompts the user for a string that contains at least 5 letters and 5 digits. So let's ask that question. Jeez. Enter a string with at least 5 letters and 5 digits. And I'm going to put that in a variable called a string. So I'll create that, a string. Right now it's going to have no value. So I prompt my user and then I ask the question. And we're going to use next line. We're going to use next line because, input. We're going to use next line and not next and then next line like we did down here. Because we're not preceding it with another input. So it shouldn't mess it up, but if so, we'll change that process. Okay. The next thing, so we've done that. The next thing, continuously reprompt the user until a valid string is entered. Display a message if it was successful or was not successful. Okay, how are we going to do that? Well, first of all, we need to count how many letters are in the string. So we're going to create a variable called stringlength. We will initialize that to 0. And then we are going to create a variable called, oh no, my chapstick just fell underneath my desk. We're going to create a variable called int digit count equals 0 and then int letter count equals 0. So this will store, what we're going to end up doing is the length. This is the length of the string. It meets the requirements of what the program asks, and we need to have 5 digits. And so we need to keep track of that. And then this one here will count or keep track of how we're going to count the letters. So we need to do that for both things. Excuse me. Do we have to deal with spaces? Let me take a look real quick. I don't think we do. Because I think a space will come back as a letter. Bank. And 5 digits. No. Okay. Good. I think those are all the variables we need. If we need more, we'll go back. Now the first method that we're going to introduce in this chapter, well actually the second one, because we already used equals ignore case. This runs with the string, it accepts this argument, and it ignores upper or lower case. Along this method lines, there's also methods called to upper, to lowercase, and to uppercase, and it could convert a variable to upper or lowercase. So you could take something like yes, or not yes, but you could take the variable run again and equal it to run again to lower, I think it's that, and pass it run again. I'm not sure on my syntax, so I'll cut it out, but something like that. And then if you do that, you could not use equals ignore case and then just say run again equals yes, because here you convert it to all lowercase, so it doesn't matter if they enter upper or lower. But those are some other neat functions or methods that are explained in the chapter. So the first one we're going to do is use a method to count the string length. And the reason we need to do this is because we need to step through the string to see if each character is a letter or a number. Now remember, this is a string, this is a string, this whole thing is a string. This is a character. A character stores one letter, one number, one spot in memory. And then anytime it's more, it's called a string. The other thing to remember, so I'll just write these huge notes, and this will be in the, I'll provide you with a code with me document like in the past few chapters I have, because there's a ton of great information in there. But the excuse me, the other, oh, where was I going with this? Oh, the big things in here is a char is a data type. So if you did char letter, it's initialized with single quotes, and it only stores just one character. It could be a letter, it could be a special character, it could be, you know, space, it could be anything, but it's only, it could be a number even, but it would be read as a character, not a number. A character stores simply one character. So M would be an example, a space would be an example, a 7 would be an example, an L, and hyphen, and asterisk would be an example of a character, and then I put single quotes around it because that's how characters are used or referenced, with a single quote and not anything else. So characters too only store one, and they're much different than a string, because so when you define a string, it could be a sentence, a word, anything longer than a letter. Longer word or longer sentence. And those are initialized with double quotes. It could store spaces. It could store one word. It could store numbers and letters. So anytime you're doing something like a social security number, that would be a string because we have not only numbers, but we have dashes. Phone numbers would be a string. House addresses, I would probably do a string because it has both a number and a house address. Passwords I would be as define as strings because passwords we would want to have special characters and letters and numbers and whatever that are required in there. So there's a very big difference between a string and a letter. Or a char is initialized with single quotes and a string with double quotes and can store much more. Now, in order to, determine if they meet the requirements of our program, we need to figure out how many characters are in the string. So we're going to use a method called lengths, or basically string.length, to see how many are in the string. And this method is nice because it goes out to the string class and it counts through the string that you pass it, and it returns a number. 10 or 15 or 8 or 300 or how it basically, it's like Word. In Word, when you go character count, and it tells you how many characters are in your English paper, that's what length does, string.length does. So we need to use this because we need to see if they meet the number requirements. Now before we do this, and before we get to the other part, the other major thing that you need to remember with strings or characters, and this will come up again in chapter 8, is we kind of use them, or we reference a location for them, and it's called an index or a subscript for arrays. But the important thing is that they always start at 0. So counting in programming starts at 0. And why I'm bringing this up is because there is a method that we're also going to use called charat, and you pass it a value. Now, say we have a string. If I had a string called string my name, and I initialized it to Katie, just my name, and I wanted to do something like system.out.println, and I want to see what's at char at 3. Whoops, char at 3. Just like that. Or another example, I guess I'll just comment it out because we'll do this, use this method in this program. But I wanted to print out what was at char at, say I want to see what's in the 0 spot or the 0 subscriptor index. So the thing with this is counting starts at 0. And when I declare a string, this is at the 0 spot. This is at the 1, 2, 3, and 4. So even though my string literal has 5 letters, it runs from 0 to 4, which is 5 spaces. So when I want to say, what is the character at the 3rd spot, this will display to the screen 0, 1, 2, 3. This will display I. If I want to see what's at the 0 spot, it'll display Katie, K. So again, the char at says basically what is a character at this point of the string literal. Okay. That's one of the other methods we're going to use. So we are, in this program, we are using charat, and the next one, well, we haven't used it really, I just wanted to explain it. But the first one we're going to use is the length. So we need to find the length of the string. So we have this program that says enter a string with at least 5 letters and 5 digits. And we take it in. So now we want to figure out the length. So we're going to say string length, which is the variable that we already created, equals a string dot length. And just to test it out, the length of the string is okay, so a string stores whatever I enter. I want to take that and I want to associate it with the dot length method. This goes out, tells us how many we have, and returns it, and I'm storing it into this. So now I'm just going to display that. So let's take a quick look and see if we're on the right track so far. So I'm going to enter my string of at least 5 letters and 5 digits, but we're not going to check for that today. So I'm going to just say it snowed today, period. The length of the string is 16. Okay, is it? Well, I is in the 0, T is in the 1, space is in the 2, S is in the 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Spaces take up places. So that would be 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 with the period. No, that's not 16 unless I hit extra space, which I may have done. So let's run it again. Yes. It snowed today, period. 16, unless I counted wrong. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Yeah, I counted wrong. So it is 16 spaces, including, you know, each space and plus the period. Do I want to run again? Yes. My name is Katie Lynn. And that's 22 characters long. Do I want to run again? No. Okay, so you see how length runs. Now we need to use that because a part of this program, we need to see, we're going to write a piece that checks if there are at least 5 digits and at least 5 letters. So we're going to use a method called is it a digit? It's called isDigit. Oops, let me just comment, because that's not the right syntax. But guess what isDigit does? It returns a true or false value when you pass it a character, and then it'll tell you if it's a digit or not. It returns a Boolean of true or false. We're going to also use a method called isLetter, and guess what that one does? Tells us if it's a yes or no. So first of all, let's write a basic for loop so we can step through each letter of our string. So we know how long our string is. Int I equals 0 as long as I is less than the length of the string. I++, open, whoops, too many there, close, and I'm documenting end of for loop, and I noticed I have missed my closing parenthesis there. I think through my headphones I can hear the wind blowing, which is probably the snow, but maybe it's not. Maybe it's like, oh no, it's just the heater coming on. Good. I thought we're getting Armageddon coming here. Oh no, the polar vortex is coming back in, so that's what it is. Okay, remember no semicolon at the end of the for loop. Okay, inside of this for loop, just focus on this part for a minute. We're going to create a temporary variable. I'll call it temp char, and I'll not initialize it to anything right now. Just create it, temp char, and then we want to say this temp char is going to be equal to, what do we want to check? So if I have this phrase, just go down here and comment for a minute, but if I have this phrase, it snowed today, and I want to check if this is a letter or if it's a number, I have to do it letter by letter. So that's the purpose of the for loop. And then I want to take that temporary character, or I want to take this I, for example, and put it inside of that temporary character to test it. So I'll say temp char is equal to the string, oops, I keep putting minus, is equal to a string in that spot. Well, what is that spot? Well, actually, that char at something in that spot. Well, I want the I on the first iteration. So instead of putting I, or the letter I, well, actually we are putting the letter I, we're going to use our counter of our loop, which is I. So on the second iteration, it'll store the letter T. And on the third iteration, it'll store the space. On the fourth iteration, it'll store S. And that's because, remember, I increments by 1 every time that you go through this loop. So it is putting I in there first. So that basically what you're doing here is saying temp char is equal to I. And then on the second one, temp char is equal to T. And then temp char is equal to a space. And then temp char is equal to S for snow. Oh wait, it snowed. Yeah. So you keep doing that however many times or how many characters the list is, the string is long. And then that's what we're going to compare. So once we take that character out of there temporarily, look up char at. There's some really good purposes of it, and I think I explained it well, but if I didn't, it is explained in the book. So read chapter 7. So we're going to write a quick if inside of the for loop. And our if is going to say, if the character that is digit is equal to the temp char, then what do I want to happen? Well, if the character dot is digit, I'm passing it I. It's going to check if it's a digit, and it returns a value of true or false. I'm going to increment my digit counter. I could say digit counter equals digit counter or count plus 1. I'm just going to do digit count plus plus. I am missing a parenthesis right here. Oh, what the heck did I do? I made my font really small. Okay, I'm missing a closing print. That's what I'm doing. I'm hitting control. The good news is my my son Nolan is in bed because it's 10:30, so he's not going to interrupt us tonight. I am missing shift. I'm missing a closing parenthesis there because I'm passing my temporary character. In the first iteration, I'm passing I to this method called character.isDigit, and it says true or false comes back. If it's true, it goes into the if and it increments the digit counter. Else, what do I want to do? I want to say else. I don't want to just assume it's a number because it could be something different. So I want to do else if character dot is letter and pass it that temp char, then semicolon. Then what I want to do is increment my letter counter, which I called letter count plus plus. Then when I break out of the for loop, I'm just going to display how many letters and numbers I have, and then we can check to see if they met the requirements. So system.out.println, there are digit count digits. I forgot a parenthesis too. There are I'm so doing something wrong there. Semicolon at the end. There. Okay, well, let's run it, and then we could display a message at the end if they're right or wrong. And we will. I did this again. I missed closing parenthesis. Okay, if you're compiling and you're getting errors, let's fix them. See, capital S. I don't do really well coding late at night anymore. I'm more of a morning person where I can have my coffee and I'm in it. But I have a meeting tomorrow, and I really want to get this posted for my face-to-face class and also for my online classes so that you know what to expect for this material. Let me just compile, and then we'll look at the code real quick so you can check your syntax errors too, because I was kind of heavy-fingered and fat-fingered a lot of things tonight. I think my syntax errors are gone though. Good. Okay, here's what your code should look like. I'll just take a quick overview. I'm not going to explain anything. I'm just going to scroll down kind of slow. Pause where you think you have an error. So let me do this. Control A. Take my CSD away for a minute so you can just see the code. Remember, these are comments. You don't need them, but it kind of helps explain things. Okay, let's run it. Enter a string with at least 5 letters and 5 digits. Let's just write, you know, whatever. How about we do this? My age is 4. Period. The length of the string is 12. There are 1 digits. That's really grammatically correct. There are 7 letters. The first thing I notice, I want to put a space here. Before I end this, I want to hit yes to see if my counts are reset and everything still works. So let's try again. My age is 38. True story. Period. There are 13. I put a period in there. There are 2 digits. There are 7 letters. So good. It's resetting. And it's checking, actually, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 letters. The spaces are being ignored, And the same with period. So that's good. It's just checking letters and numbers. And hopefully you're thinking, hey, this could be a really useful password method, because when you are writing a program that sets a password, you want to make sure they enter in a letter or a number, and you could use these is it a digit, is it a letter methods to compare that. So cool, we're on the right track. Now the only other thing we want to do well, I'm going to add a space right here because that drives me nuts. But the only other thing we want to do is meet the final requirement where it says, we want to meet the final requirement where it says display a message if it was successful or did not enter. So that is after our for loop's done, and now we said how many there were, we're just going to do a basic if statement. And we can say if digit count is greater than or equal to 5, because they need at least 5, and letter count is greater than or equal to 5. And I'm going to put parentheses around my whole thing because I think they're needed, and I like that. Then we can say, you know how to follow directions. And else we can say bad, 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 bad. Try again. Okay, that is the program and a brief overview of the chapter. I want you to run it one more time. Make sure your program can compile and grab a sample output. Oh, good, another syntax error. I'm missing that. Dang it, I hit control again. I'm missing opening. Oh Lord, it's getting late. I'm missing that. So let's compile and pull some sample output. Let's run this and let's enter in, pretend this is a password program and you have at least 5 letters and 5 numbers. And I want to put in my password of, I'm just pulling off something off my desk. It says cocoa nut, which I can't spell, hibiscus, and I spelled that wrong, 6.45 ounces or 177 milliliters. Okay, so I wrote a string in there. It says the string length is 34, there are 6 digits, 21 letters. Good job, met the requirements. Do I want to run again? Sure, because I want to test this. Enter string of at least 5 letters and 5 digits. Well, maybe I just want to change my password to hibiscus. I can't spell that. Hibiscus 1. 1 digit, 8 letters. You are wrong. Try again. So there you go. That is an example of how you can use some of these methods that, and now I'm going to put lotion on my hands because that made me want to use it. Smells good like coconut and hibiscus, and it's wintertime. But anyway, that is the chapter on different methods in strings and string builder methods that are part of the class string, and very useful programs that you could see how you could use for passwords or authentication or things of that sort. Now I will provide you with the Code With Me document. Read that for the quiz. It will be helpful. It explains so many other methods in here that you'll want to use as you go on with programming, like to lowercase, to uppercase, ends with. You know, does my string end with a period? If no, add a period. If you're looking at this, you know, look at that. That's probably how Word does things like spell check, you know, or grammar check. If it doesn't end with a period or end with a question mark, then maybe consider it. You can use replace, and that's useful. So say you know, especially with a database program where you have somebody's name and you want to go through this whole database and replace their last name with a new last name. That happens with women when they change their name, or men. I think, you know, anybody can change their name, but that could happen. Parsing, wrapping with a W. Converting integers to strings. This is kind of useful. Actually, strings to integers, when you do GUI programs, and this, we haven't done this in this class, but in Java, when you do GUI programs, everything's read in as a string, so you have to convert it to an integer. So that's something that's useful to know. But I will share this document that I'm thumbing through and just thinking of all the things. But it is a short little chapter, excuse me, with some pretty useful things in there. Paste your sample output here. And submit this. I will call this Code with Me for Chapter 7, which will be in that learning module. Now remember, there will not be an additional assignment, but if you are into this, I know we're getting toward the end, that's why I don't want to assign something else. Plus, I want to spend more time on Chapter 8 because arrays are fun and necessary. But if you are trying to code anything in there and you need help, send me an email and I'll send you the solution. And then there's the quiz. So this assignment, the Code with Me assignment, and the quiz. And the quiz, I'll probably add a couple additional questions just because there won't be an additional assignment. So I want to point out the most important methods that are in this chapter. Half hour turned into 47 minutes. That's not too bad. Thanks for listening. Have a good night, a good day. And if it's still snowing out, fall or winter of 2014, or if I happen to use these again in 15, be careful tomorrow. That's it. Have a good night, or day, or morning.